The dimly lit conference room buzzed with tension as holographic images of Earth's leaders flickered around the circular table. Ambassador Rhea Callan stood in the center, her arms crossed and her sharp gaze scanning the room. She waited as the recording played for the third time, the deep, guttural voice of Admiral Threx delivering the ultimatum. Earth will surrender all autonomy to the Galactic Empire within 14 standard days. Refuse, and we will erase you from existence. Resistance is futile. The recording ended, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Prime Minister Langley was the first to speak, his voice trembling. We can't win this. They're too advanced. Their fleets outnumber us 1,000 to 1. Submission may be our only chance to survive. Across the table, Governor Alana Tregan slammed her hand down. Survive? By becoming their slaves? I'd rather die fighting than live kneeling. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room, but they quickly turned into bickering. Rhea raised a hand, and the voices quieted. We're wasting time, she said. Debating fear versus pride won't save us. What will save us is thinking like humans, Langley scoffed. And what does that mean, exactly? Outgunned, outnumbered, outmatched, how do we think our way out of this? By playing to our strengths, Rhea replied, her voice steady. The Empire sees us as insignificant. That arrogance is their weakness. They fight wars with brute force and numbers, but we fight wars with adaptability, ingenuity, and precision. Governor Tregan leaned forward. You've got a plan? Rhea nodded. Our AI and quantum engineers have been developing a tool we call the Quantum Cascade Disruptor. It can create a chain reaction that destabilizes faster-than-light communication networks. If we deploy it strategically, we can cut their fleet off from their central command. Langley frowned. And what happens when they realize what we've done? They'll bombard us until nothing remains. That's where deception comes in, Rhea said, her tone sharpening. We use holographic projections, electromagnetic warfare, and false signatures to make them think they're fighting a larger, more advanced force than we are. We'll feed their paranoia, confuse their tactics, and delay their response. And what if we fail? Langley pressed. If even one Imperial dreadnought breaks through. Rhea interrupted, her voice calm but firm. Failure isn't an option. We fight not to win outright but to force them to reconsider the cost of subjugating us. If we make this war too costly, too chaotic, they'll leave us alone. The room fell silent again, the weight of Rhea's words settling over the leaders like a storm cloud. Finally, Tregan spoke. I'll back you, Callan. Whatever resources you need, Pacifica is yours. Langley hesitated, then sighed heavily. If we're truly committing to this insanity, I'll allocate Europa's defense grid to your plan. Rhea nodded. Good. Then let's begin. 2 days later, Rhea stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, watching the holographic map of the solar system. The Empire's fleet was marked in red, a massive wave of ships advancing toward Earth. Beside her, Chief Engineer Davik adjusted the projection, zooming in on the glowing network of communication relays spanning the galaxy. The Quantum Cascade Disruptor is online, Davik reported. Once we activate it, the chain reaction will spread through their network in less than 15 minutes. Will they be able to trace it back to us? Rhea asked. Unlikely, Davik replied. The cascade will look like a random quantum fluctuation. By the time they figure out it's deliberate, they'll already be blind. Good, Rhea said, her gaze fixed on the map. Deploy the decoys and prepare the first wave of countermeasures. I want them chasing ghosts. As the engineers moved to carry out her orders, Rhea's assistant, Talia, approached with a data pad. Ambassador, the Empire's forward scouts have entered the outer solar system. We estimate their main fleet will arrive in less than 72 hours. Rhea took a deep breath, steadying herself. Then it's time to send the message. Talia nodded and activated the recording equipment. A holographic image of Rhea appeared before her, projected into the ether of space. She stared into the camera, her expression calm and unyielding. To the commanders of the Galactic Empire, she began. You see Earth as a primitive world, an easy conquest. But you have underestimated us. We are not a people who submit to fear. If you proceed with your invasion, you will learn that even the smallest spark can ignite the void. This is your only warning." She nodded to Talia, who ended the transmission. The warning was sent, broadcast across the Empire's channels. Now, all they could do was wait. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship Eviscerator, Admiral Threx scowled at the holographic image of Rhea Callan. "Arrogant vermin," he growled. "They think they can frighten us with empty threats." His second-in-command, Commander Veclin, hesitated. "Admiral, their defiance suggests they may have some kind of contingency plan. Perhaps we should proceed with caution." Threx waved a hand dismissively. "Caution is for cowards. Earth will fall like all the others. Prepare the fleet for immediate assault." As the Imperial fleet surged forward, Rhea watched from the command center, her expression unreadable. "Activate the quantum cascade disruptor," she ordered. Davik's fingers danced across the controls, and the holographic map flickered as the Empire's communication network began to collapse. Red lines representing their relays turned to static, one after another, like falling dominoes. "It's working," Davik said, his voice filled with awe. "They're blind." Rhea allowed herself a small smile. "Now, let's make them regret ever underestimating us." The room buzzed with activity as Earth's defenses came online. Holographic fleets shimmered into existence, electromagnetic pulses disrupted enemy sensors, and AI-guided decoys lured Imperial ships into ambushes. Chaos erupted in the Empire's ranks as Threx's fleet found itself fighting phantoms, unable to distinguish real threats from illusions. "Admiral, our sensors are malfunctioning," Veclin reported. "We're detecting hundreds of hostile signatures, but we can't confirm their locations." Threx's face darkened. "Impossible. They don't have the resources for a fleet this size." Back on Earth, Rhea watched the chaos unfold with grim satisfaction. "Keep the pressure on," she said. "They'll either retreat or destroy themselves trying to make sense of this." Talia approached her, a hint of worry in her eyes. "What if they don't retreat? What if they call for reinforcements?" Rhea met her gaze, her voice steady. "Then we'll show them what humanity is truly capable of." The vastness of space crackled with energy as Earth's defenses prepared for what seemed an inevitable clash with the Galactic Empire. Rhea Callan paced along the command center's holographic interface, her sharp eyes scanning the real-time tactical feed. Every moment counted now. A team of engineers worked feverishly at the central console, while officers whispered updates from their stations. The tension in the room was suffocating. "Quantum cascade disruptor activation confirmed," Davik announced, his voice steady despite the chaos. "The cascade has reached their primary relay hubs. Their communication network is collapsing." "Status of their fleet?" Rhea asked, her tone clipped. "Scattered," Davik replied. "We've intercepted fragments of their internal comms. They're already showing signs of disarray." Rhea allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. "Good. Deploy the decoys. Make them second-guess everything they see." Holographic projections shimmered into life on the tactical map, an illusory fleet of human warships that dwarfed anything Earth could have realistically built. Each projection moved with the precision of an AI-controlled system, simulating attack formations and maneuvers. Even to the trained eye, they were indistinguishable from real ships. Talia hurried to Rhea's side, data pad in hand. "Admiral Threx is repositioning his fleet," she reported. "It looks like he's consolidating forces near the asteroid belt." "Classic Imperial doctrine," Rhea muttered. "They'll try to secure high ground and use the asteroids as cover to regroup. Let's disrupt that. Deploy ghost ships along their intended route, force them to scatter again." Ghost ships, small, stealthy drones equipped with powerful jamming systems, launched from Earth's orbital stations. Invisible to the naked eye, they projected false signals and distorted the Empire's sensors, turning the empty void of space into a labyrinth of misleading data. "They'll think they're walking into an ambush," Rhea said, her lips curving into a tight smile. "And when they hesitate, we'll exploit every second." Meanwhile, aboard the Imperial flagship Eviscerator, Admiral Threx's frustration was palpable. His officers scrambled to make sense of the chaotic data flooding their screens, but the more they tried to interpret it, the worse the situation became. "Admiral, we're detecting over 100 hostile signatures," Commander Veclin reported, his voice strained. "Their fleet is larger than we anticipated." "Nonsense!" Threx barked. "This planet barely qualifies as a military power. These readings must be false." "But what if they're not?" Veclin pressed. "Their warning implied capabilities we might have underestimated." Threx glared at his second-in-command. "I refuse to believe that these primitives have outmaneuvered us. Deploy the strike wings. Flush them out." On Rhea's end, the command center erupted in a flurry of activity as the Empire's strike craft began to mobilize. The holographic map lit up with swarms of red blips converging on the decoy fleet. "Strike wings inbound," Davik confirmed. "Should we engage our real defenses?" "Not yet," Rhea said. "Let the decoys draw them in. Wait until they overcommit." Minutes felt like hours as the Empire's strike craft closed in on what they believed to be Earth's main fleet. Then, at the perfect moment, Rhea gave the order. "Activate decoy disruptors. Now." The decoy fleet erupted in a dazzling display of simulated destruction, explosions, cascading energy discharges, and bursts of electromagnetic interference. To the Empire's sensors, it appeared as though Earth's fleet had engaged and suffered heavy losses. "Admiral, they're retreating!" Veclin exclaimed aboard the Eviscerator. "We've inflicted massive damage." Threx allowed himself a smug grin. "As I expected. Primitive tactics and fragile ships. Proceed with the main fleet. Sweep the rest of their defenses aside." But as the Imperial fleet advanced, the real trap was sprung. Earth's orbital stations, lying in wait behind the planet's natural magnetic field, unleashed a coordinated strike. High-energy rail guns and precision-guided missiles targeted the Empire's vulnerable rear formations, striking with devastating accuracy. "Direct hits on their rear guard," Davik reported with a rare hint of excitement. "They're scrambling to reorganize." "Keep the pressure on," Rhea instructed. "Focus on their supply ships and carriers. Cut off their reinforcements." In space, chaos reigned. Imperial ships struggled to adjust to the sudden assault, their formation breaking apart under the relentless attack. For every countermeasure they attempted, Earth's AI-driven systems adapted, staying one step ahead. Back on the Eviscerator, Threx's confidence began to waver. "How are they coordinating this? Their fleet was decimated." "It's not their fleet," Veclin said, his voice grim. "It's their defenses. They're not fighting us head-on. They're outmaneuvering us." Threx slammed his fist against the console. "Impossible! This is a planet of savages. Savages with tactics you clearly didn't anticipate," Veclin replied, earning a withering glare from his superior. As the battle raged on, Rhea kept her focus on the bigger picture. "Talia, any movement on their flagship?" Talia checked her data pad. "They're holding position. Likely waiting for reinforcements." Rhea's eyes narrowed. "They'll have to wait a long time." "Davik, is the cascade reaching their reinforcement hubs?" "Yes," Davik confirmed. "Their entire hyperspace relay network is destabilized. No reinforcements will be arriving anytime soon." Rhea allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before returning to the task at hand. "Then let's make sure Threx knows he's outmatched. Broadcast a direct message to their flagship." Talia nodded and activated the communication link. Rhea stepped forward, her voice calm but edged with steel. "Admiral Threx, this is Ambassador Rhea Callan of Earth. Your fleet is in disarray, your communications are compromised, and your reinforcements are out of reach. Withdraw now, or face complete destruction. This is your second, and final, warning." The message played aboard the Eviscerator, and the bridge fell silent. Threx's face twisted in fury. "How dare they! Prepare to launch all remaining forces. I want that planet obliterated. Admiral, if we commit now, we may lose what remains of the fleet," Veclin cautioned. Threx's response was a snarl. "Earth must be made an example. If we retreat now, we lose face across the galaxy. On Earth, Rhea watched the tactical feed as the eviscerator began to mobilize. Her expression remained steady, though her fingers tightened around the edge of the console. They're doubling down, Talia said softly. What do we do? We finish this, Rhea replied. Activate Phase 2. At her command, Earth's defense grid unleashed its most devastating weapon, a coordinated EMP pulse that blanketed the battlefield. Imperial ships flickered and went dark, their systems overloaded. The eviscerator remained operational, but its fleet was crippled. Rhea leaned forward, her voice low but resolute. Now we talk. Innuation of the narrative. Admiral Threx stood motionless on the bridge of the eviscerator, his clenched fists trembling at his sides. The tactical display was a sea of red icons blinking out one by one as Earth's electromagnetic pulse rippled through his fleet. The Imperial war machine, which had crushed hundreds of rebellious systems without effort, now found itself crippled by what should have been a routine conquest. The quiet chaos of his crews scrambling to reboot systems and coordinate survivors was unbearable. Admiral, Becklin said hesitantly, our main fleet is offline. Secondary systems are struggling to recover. We've lost the majority of our strike craft, and our support ships have been neutralized. Threx rounded on his second-in-command, his voice a snarl. Then deploy the flagship's reserves. Activate contingency protocols and retaliate. I will not have my career ruined by a backwater planet. Veclin straightened, his lips thinning. With respect, sir, this is no longer a battle, it's a trap. Their tactics suggest precision and planning far beyond what we expected. Continuing this engagement will result in complete destruction. You're suggesting retreat? Threx spat. We are the Galactic Empire. We do not retreat. Veclin's gaze remained steady. We also do not throw away fleets on pointless endeavors. I suggest we withdraw to reassess and return with overwhelming force. Before Threx could respond, a communication officer interrupted. Admiral, we're receiving another transmission from the surface. Patch it through, Threx barked. His tone carried the weight of a man desperate to reassert control. The holographic display shifted to reveal the figure of Ambassador Rhea Callan. She stood calmly, her hands clasped in front of her, her expression unreadable. Behind her, the faint hum of Earth's command center pulsed like the heartbeat of the planet itself. When she spoke, her voice was measured, steady, and sharp as a blade. Admiral Threx, I see your flagship is still operational. That's fortunate. It means I don't have to repeat myself. Your fleet is in ruins, your reinforcements are unreachable, and your communication systems are compromised. Continuing this fight will only end with more of your ships dead in the void. Retreat now, and you may still salvage some of your dignity. Threx's jaw tightened as he stared at the projection. You dare to lecture me, primitive? You think this minor victory has any meaning? The Empire spans 1,000 worlds. You are nothing. Rhea tilted her head, her gaze unflinching. We may be nothing to you, Admiral, but we've already shown the galaxy that even nothing can bring an empire to its knees. I wonder how your rivals in the Imperial Court will see this incident. Veclin's eyes flicked toward Threx, his expression betraying the first hints of doubt. The room fell silent except for the faint crackle of static from malfunctioning systems. Rhea continued, her voice calm but heavy with unspoken menace. We have no desire for war, Admiral, but we will not submit to threats. Withdraw now, and we will allow you to leave with what remains of your fleet. Ignore this warning, and we will escalate. Threx clenched his fist tighter, the veins in his neck bulging. Escalate? What could Earth possibly escalate to? Rhea leaned forward, her voice dropping to a deadly whisper. Admiral, you've seen what we can do when we're defending ourselves. Imagine what we could do if we decided to attack. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in silence. Threx's glare burned holes into the empty air where Rhea's hologram had stood. Veclin stepped closer, his voice low but insistent. She's bluffing, of course, but the fact that we can't confirm that is precisely the problem. The longer we stay here, the weaker our position becomes. Threx rounded on him, his voice cracking with fury. I will not abandon this campaign. You'll have no campaign to abandon if you stay. Veclan snapped, his composure finally slipping. We've lost control of this engagement. Our survival depends on regrouping and rethinking our strategy. Staying here only plays into their hands. Threx's nostrils flared as he stared down his second-in-command, but the weight of the situation hung between them like a heavy chain. For all his bravado, Threx knew Veclan was right. He slammed his fist onto the console, his decision made. Order the fleet to prepare for retreat, Threx growled. This isn't over. Earth will pay for this insult. Veclan nodded sharply, turning to relay the order. Around the bridge, officers moved with newfound urgency, their relief thinly veiled beneath professional efficiency. Back on Earth, the command center erupted in quiet celebration as the Imperial fleet began to pull back. Officers exchanged glances of cautious triumph, their postures relaxing ever so slightly. Talia approached Rhea, her expression a mix of pride and exhaustion. They're retreating, Talia said. It's really happening. Rhea allowed herself a small smile, though her eyes remained fixed on the tactical display. For now. This isn't a victory, it's a reprieve. They'll be back, and we'll need to be ready. Davik approached, wiping sweat from his brow. The quantum cascade disruptor exceeded expectations. It bought us critical time. It was a team effort, Rhea replied. And one we'll need to build on. They underestimated us once. They won't make that mistake again. As the last of the Imperial ships disappeared beyond the solar system's edge, Rhea turned to face the room. The quiet buzz of celebration faded as her voice carried over the crowd. We've won this round, but the war isn't over. The Empire will regroup, and they will come back stronger. What we've accomplished today isn't just survival, it's a statement. We've shown them that humanity isn't just a collection of backwater primitives. We are a force to be reckoned with. The room erupted into cheers, but Rhea's gaze remained distant. She knew this was only the beginning. For Earth to truly survive, they would need more than clever tactics and resilience. They would need alliances, innovations, and the courage to fight an empire that spanned the stars. As the celebration continued around her, Rhea turned to Talia and Davik. Prepare a report for the coalition. I want every detail of this operation documented and distributed. If the Empire thinks we're alone, let them be wrong. Talia nodded, her expression resolute. What about the warning to the rest of the galaxy? Rhea's smile returned, this time sharper, edged with purpose. Send it. Let every system under the Empire's thumb know that Earth fought back, and won. Talia stepped away to carry out the order, and Rhea allowed herself one final glance at the tactical display. The red icons of the Imperial fleet were gone, leaving Earth's blue beacon standing alone. It wasn't much, but it was enough. For now. We're just getting started, she murmured. The galaxy had heard Earth's warning. Now, it was only a matter of time before the spark they'd ignited became a fire no empire could extinguish. The War Council reconvened in the aftermath of the Empire's retreat. Rhea Callan stood at the head of the chamber, her face illuminated by the holographic maps hovering above the central table. Around her, the most influential leaders and strategists of Earth's coalition listened intently, their expressions a mixture of relief and lingering apprehension. This was not a meeting to celebrate, it was a meeting to prepare. We've earned a reprieve, Rhea began, her voice clear and commanding. But make no mistake, the Empire's retreat isn't a victory, it's a delay. They've seen what we're capable of, but they haven't seen everything. And when they come back, we won't just defend. We'll show them why underestimating humanity was the greatest mistake they ever made. Governor Tregan, as fiery as ever, leaned forward. Callan, you've got the room's attention. What's your plan? Because I doubt the Empire's giving us the luxury of time. Rhea gestured to the holographic display, where the remnants of the Empire's fleet flickered alongside Earth's meager defenses. We need to turn this into an opportunity. The Empire relies on fear and control to maintain its power. But fear is a double-edged sword. They've shown the galaxy their vulnerability, And we need to amplify that. Prime Minister Langley crossed his arms, skepticism etched into his face. You're suggesting we escalate this into an interstellar rebellion? We barely survived this engagement. I'm suggesting we make alliances, Rhea countered. The Empire has subjugated countless civilizations. If we reach out to the right ones, we can turn their fractured loyalty into resistance. The enemy of our enemy can become our greatest ally. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, but Langley wasn't convinced. And what if they betray us? What if we're too small, too late to make a difference? That's a risk we'll have to take, Rhea replied. But we won't go into this blind. Our scientists have already begun analyzing the weaknesses we exploited in the Empire's fleet. We'll use that knowledge to strengthen our defenses and offer our allies the means to fight back. Davik, the chief engineer, stepped forward, a data pad in hand. The quantum cascade disruptor was just the beginning. We've identified additional vulnerabilities in their tech. With the right resources, we can scale our systems to disrupt their entire supply chain. This isn't about outgunning them, it's about outthinking them. Governor Tregan smirked. That's a game we're good at. Rhea nodded. Exactly. We don't need to match their firepower. We need to make them believe every ship, every relay, every hyperspace jump is a risk they can't afford to take. Langley sighed heavily. Fine. Let's say we reach out to these oppressed civilizations. How do we avoid drawing the Empire's full attention before we're ready? Rhea's expression darkened. That's the other part of the plan. We won't just spread rebellion, we'll spread disinformation. Misdirection will be our greatest weapon. If the Empire doesn't know where the threat is coming from, they can't target it effectively. Talia spoke up, her tone measured. Our intelligence team is already working on simulated fleet movements and false communications. If we time it right, we can make it look like their own systems are turning against them. Langley leaned back, finally conceding. It's bold, I'll give you that. But bold is all we've got. The Council spent hours refining the strategy, assigning tasks, and consolidating resources. By the time the meeting ended, the room carried a sense of purpose that hadn't been there before. Rhea watched as the leaders departed, her mind already racing ahead to the next steps. Later that evening, she stood alone in the observation deck, staring out at Earth's glittering surface below. The weight of the day pressed heavily on her shoulders. The decisions they had made were necessary, but the risks were immense. She had no illusions about the cost of what lay ahead. You look like you're carrying the world, Davik said as he approached, his tone light but his expression serious. Rhea didn't turn. Maybe because I am. Davik leaned against the railing beside her. You did something incredible today. You made them see what we're capable of. And now we have to do it again, Rhea said quietly. On a scale we've never attempted. One mistake, and everything we've worked for will be erased. Davik placed a hand on her shoulder. You've already shown the galaxy that Earth doesn't go down without a fight. Whatever happens next, we'll face it together. Rhea glanced at him, a faint smile touching her lips. That's the only reason I haven't gone insane. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of the coming storm settling over them. Then Rhea straightened, her resolve hardening. Tomorrow, we begin reaching out to potential allies. We'll need to be careful. If the Empire catches wind of what we're doing too soon, they'll crush us before we've even started. Davik nodded. I'll get the engineers working on secure communication channels. And I'll keep refining the disruptor tech. We'll need every edge we can get. As Davik left, Rhea turned back to the window, her gaze fixed on the stars. Somewhere out there, the Empire was regrouping, plotting their revenge. But she wasn't afraid. Humanity had faced extinction before and survived. They would do it again. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Messages were sent to distant systems, coded in ways even the most advanced Imperial sensors couldn't detect. Responses trickled in slowly at first, a tentative inquiry from a subjugated mining colony, a cautious agreement from a rebel faction hiding in the asteroid fields of the Zynar Nebula. Each new ally brought a spark of hope, but also a new set of challenges. Rhea spent long hours in the command center, coordinating the growing resistance and planning Earth's next moves. Every day brought new obstacles, but also new victories. The rebellion was gaining momentum, and the Empire's grip on its territories was beginning to falter. One evening, Talia approached her with a data pad. "We've received confirmation from the NAR Collective. They're in. That brings our total allied systems to 12. Rhea allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. 12 systems, united against the Empire. It's a start. Talia hesitated. There's one more thing. Our intelligence team intercepted a transmission from the Empire. They're preparing a counteroffensive. Rhea's smile faded. When? Within the next month, Talia said. They're sending a new fleet, bigger, faster, and more advanced than the last. Rhea exhaled slowly, her mind already racing. Then we need to be ready. Coordinate with our allies. Tell them to prepare for simultaneous strikes. If the Empire wants to bring its full force to Earth, we'll make sure they pay for every inch. Talia nodded and left to carry out the orders. Rhea stared at the tactical display, the weight of the coming battle pressing down on her. But this time, she didn't feel alone. Humanity wasn't just defending itself anymore. It was leading a movement, a spark that could ignite across the galaxy. And when the Empire returned, they would discover that Earth wasn't just a planet. It was an idea. One they couldn't hope to extinguish.